everyone. Today we're joined by Angela, who does work around FGM, female genital mutilation. It's a very difficult and uncomfortable and painful topic for many. So just those viewing, you may find some of the contents of this, upsetting or distressing. But first of all, Angela, I just want you to, introduce yourself, give us a bit of information about your background, and then we'll come to the work that you're doing currently.
Okay. Thank you for having me, Shamshat.
Okay.
It's been a long time knowing you, and it's wonderful being in the podcast. So my name is Angela Wathoni. I am the operations director at Nistawi Women, and we've been running Nistawi Women for the past, I would say, 8-9 years. But we've only registered it about 2.5 years ago, based on a need that was there, based on women who have come to us, wanting that support that they need. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's been going for quite a while, really,
Yeah.
and it's only just formally sort of got off the ground recently in recent years.
Yeah.
So what is Nistawi about? Why did you set that up?
I set Nistawi up because I saw that more so in Nottingham, a lot of women from the African Caribbean background need a lot of trauma-informed support for women and girls who have undergone FGM or who are at risk of undergoing FGM, because the amount of services that are there, I would say in Nottingham, does not sort of show how these women are being supported. And also at the back of, everyone's mind is that you need that cultural competency so that at least the person or the organization or the services that are providing them services are from people who understand what FGM is, probably have people who have been through or gone through FGM, who are survivors of FGM, and people who can be able to understand and comfort and offer that support to the women and girls who have undergone FGM.
Yeah. And so, just going back a little bit, could you just tell us what FGM is?
FGM is female genital mutilation. So it's any procedure that alters the female genitalia or the female organs. So there's different types of FGM. There's type 1, type 2, type 3. Type 1 is when the cutter cuts off the clitoris of the woman. Type 2 is when they cut the clitoris of the woman and sew it down all the way to just the opening where the woman or the girl goes to the bathroom. Okay. And type 3 is any other procedure that alters, whether the whole thing or any other thing that the cutter would be able to sort of either cut the clitoral bit, sew the women of the lips of the female genitalia, or any other alteration that they are going to be able to do.
So it just completely eradicates any visual, physical appearance of the woman's genitals.
Yes.
Oh, and so why does it happen? Why do people do FGM, or why do people feel forced to? I mean, some people are, compelled to do it. Why does it happen?
The first thing that comes to mind of why it happens is culture, because if you look at the culture from, say, 40, 50 to 100 years ago, a lot of cultures from the African community, Asian community, Middle East community would say that if a woman is not cut, then number one, they're not ready for marriage. Number two, they are not pure to a man. And number three, they're an outcast to the family. So most of the communities that do or would do FGM, they would say that it's a way of preparing the woman to be viable for a man, which is absolutely preposterous. And also in some other communities, I would say like in deep down African communities or some Asian communities, they say that it's religious, but it's not. FGM is illegal in most parts of Africa and most parts of Asia, but I would say number one is culture. The most important thing why people still do FGM is the culture.
Yeah. And where does it happen? I mean, you've mentioned a number of different places? Is it mainly within African, Middle Eastern, Asian countries?
Yes, so most of it happens in African countries, Middle Eastern countries, Asian countries. I know that there's been a discussion in more so, I think it was Egypt or Israel a couple of years ago, last year, which is, number one, in my opinion, absolutely preposterous, because in Egypt they are saying that if FGM is done in a hospital setting, then it's legal and then it's right. But it isn't, because at the end of the day, FGM is a form of abuse to the woman. So how is it that you changing how you do it, saying that, oh, we're going to do it in a clean environment. We're not going to do it in the bushes or in the huts or behind closed doors. That makes a difference. It doesn't. So I would beg to differ with the people who are saying that if it's done in a hospital setting, then it's legal and it's fine, but it's not.
Just the setting makes it different in some way, makes that act different in some way. So I mean apart from outside, I mean, who is it that does these procedures? Who typically are the people that do these procedures? Where do people go to get FGM done? I'll
talk more about in the African setting. The people who do these procedures are women who are old, number one. So the women would be possibly in their 70s, 80s, 90s. And they themselves, number one, have had FGM done. So they believe that they are going to do something. And FGM is usually done, number one, behind closed doors. And it's not, number one, sanitary, because it's done with, razor blades or sharp objects.
Very crude, isn't it?
It's very, very crude. And I'm not saying that it's something that is supposed to happen or should happen in other circumstances, but it's not, and there's no anesthesia. So you're feeling the pain right hand, and because there's a lot of pain that comes through it, most of the times when it is in closed doors, you find that the lady or the woman and girl who is undergoing the FGM has 4 or 5 ladies holding her on hands and feet, and they are all parallel to one another, so that the lady does not move, because then if she moves, something else might happen. You might cut something else. And after that, there's no you're not given sort of any medication or anything. You're just told, that's it, you're done. And then you're told, go off. And there's no discussion, and everybody now starts celebrating, and there's sort of like a celebration saying, oh, our girl is now a woman or mature, is now ready
for marriage
and all this. But to the woman themselves who has undergone is traumatic, because a lot of women who have undergone it, number one, some have lost their lives, some go to extreme bleeding, some also have not, like in their later years, have gone not, number one, experiencing their menses, because then now there isn't any outlet based on the type of FGM that one has undergone through. And number two, you cannot have a baby, because then now if you've gone through, let's say for example type 2 or type 3, then if you're going to have a baby, then it becomes very hard for you to give birth, number one. So you'd have to be cut back again with the process called deinfibulation, which is again absolutely traumatic, because you can imagine if somebody had FGM when they were 5 or less than 5, and then they have a baby or want to have a baby when they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s. Technically speaking, the wounds have already healed. So you're talking about cutting back skin, which again is very traumatic. And most of the women who have undergone FGM now say that I don't want to have kids.
There's mutilation again if a woman wants to have a child or wants to have a child safely.
Exactly. So they say I don't want to have a male partner, because then having sexual intercourse becomes extremely painful, and you don't want to go through that every single time, so you just say, oh, I'd rather have a female partner or have no partner at all. Yeah.
So is there a typical age that this happens to girls, or can it happen at any age?
I think it can happen at any age between 0 and 18.
Okay.
Because we've seen instances whereby kids who are, not even kids, but children, infants who are, say, 3 months, 6 months, have undergone FGM. And that the mother, not the mother, but the grandparents have taken the child and all the way to 5. And, you know, for the case that we were talking about earlier, who was 18 at the time, you know. So I would think any age between 0 and 18. But I also feel like above 18 would be possible, because if there's that pressure from the family for a person to undergo FGM, I don't think, in respective to the cutters, that they would have an age. I think if you're coming back to the community and to the society that practices FGM, as long as you're not cut, you cannot come. And if you want to come, you have to be cut. And say, if you want to come back to the community and you're 30, 40 years old, you have to undergo through it for you to be accepted. So in a nutshell, I think I would say, I don't think the age.
There's not really a particular age.
I don't think so. Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously some of the work that you do, part of the work that you do is supporting those women that have survived these procedures. Yeah. Also probably working around campaigning against FGM. Yeah. Over the period of time that you've been involved, are you starting to see a shift? Are there women that are now starting to say, no, I'm not going to have my child, that may have experienced it themselves, I'm not going to have my daughter experience this? Are you seeing any shifts in attitudes?
Yes, definitely. Because now the women that are coming and speaking up, and they know the traumatic effect that it has had on them, they do not want that trauma to happen to their children. And I think, number one, a very good sort of support system is that there is, for example, in this country, is a safeguarding systems that are there. Because I was having a chat with some of the safeguarding team and also the midwives who are specialized in FGM. If a person who has had FGM before becomes pregnant and the midwife knows the gender of the child and is female, then there's that wraparound support from safeguarding, number one, to know how, number one, the mother is feeling, and to actually talk to the mother outright and say, you know, we know that you've had FGM before, but, you know, there might be a risk of you taking the child back to have FGM done. But most of the time, not most of the time, all the time, the mothers come and say, I would never have FGM done on my child. But then there's always the safeguarding, the health visitors coming to see the mother before giving birth, while she's pregnant, and after she's already given birth. And also after, when she's given birth, not only does she get just the normal safeguarding medical support, but she's also signposted to organizations such as Nistawi, so that at least she can get that support, because also giving birth is also something very, very big, because then you had FGM done, you may have had defibrillation done on yourself. The wounds that you have tried to heal for such a long time, now they're all coming back, and that the mother needs that support, you know, so that she can be assured that you're okay, you will be okay. You know, there's support, and there's services, there's people that you can be able to talk to, so that at least you will never have that ounce of thought that maybe probably should I take my child back, you know, so that we eliminate that kind of thought.
And also there's been a change in the law as well, hasn't there? Can you just clarify what that is, what that laid out? Yes.
I think a couple of years back and last year, there's now law in England that FGM is illegal. And I think there was, one or two people who were arrested and they were sent to jail because they were about to take a child back to their home country to have FGM done. And, at least that having that arrest being out there in the public, I think shows ways in which not only the communities but the government is taking heed on the violence against women and girls, and in particular FGM, whereby, we don't want, just because somebody is born here, we don't want them going back and saying, oh, but they're part of that community. But then that community abuses girls in form of FGM. We don't want that. But having that stance in having that law there that, is illegal, and we are taking a strict regimen. And for anyone who's at risk, at least there's FGM protection orders that are seized, number one, to the mother, to the child. And if there's a risk that a child would be taken away, then the mother's passport is taken away, the child's passport is taken away. So there's no ounce of that child ever leaving the UK.
No, I mean, it sends a very strong message, doesn't it, in terms of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable.
Exactly.
And I know that in the past there used to be sort of concerns when children would go missing or sort of go away abroad because there were concerns they were being taken away.
Yes.
But of course, it also happens in the UK as well, doesn't it? You don't have to take a child or a young woman abroad to have the procedure. It's happening here in the UK, isn't it?
Yeah. It's very sad that, the norms that we try as much as possible not to have here in the UK are slowly creeping in, because then now, for most of the cutters, they now know that the children are not going to go back, or they're not going to be taken back. So they find themselves coming back here, or finding their way back here. And I think that's where I think all the communities need to be vigilant and more connected, and having that social cohesion and talking about it. Because if we don't talk about the effects and the harm that FGM causes, or even asking someone, how are you doing today? What's happening in the family? Are you going abroad? Or having those conversations, even with kids, female teenagers, what's going at home, in just a friendly way. Then in that way, we can be able to see, is someone going through a hard time? Have they previously gone through a hard time? Is there an opportunity where, they're going to go abroad to have FGM done? It's sort of having those conversations, I can say. Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned sort of safeguarding and some of those procedures. I mean, in Nottingham, who are the organisations that you work with that are also playing their role in, either supporting victims of FGM or trying to sort of identify those opportunities to try and prevent it? Who are the other partners that you work with?
I would say number one is the midwife community.
Okay.
The Nottingham, the NHS midwife community, because we have the conversations, the partnerships with the midwife community, because when the pregnant women go to the midwives and they talk to them, when they're pregnant, is to find out, number one, do they need any other support that they need? And most of them actually do. And there's one thing that I would say in Nottingham, I think it's the first, talking to the FGM specialist midwife in Nottingham, she has taken an initiative to create a clinic outside of the medical or the hospital setting. So it's called the Rose Clinic. I think it's a Rose Clinic in Sneinton, whereby women who have had FGM before, not only for people who are pregnant, because at the clinic, the midwife, when they go to the hospital, most of the time it's the women who are pregnant. But she has established a clinic called the Rose Clinic, whereby women who also are not pregnant can be able to come not to a non-hospital setting and get the support that they need. Because then we feel, or she felt like, if every girl would come to the in a hospital setting, then they wouldn't feel that there's that element of hope or trust or safety. It's usually a difference. And also you feel, but smell the medicines. There's all sort of smells that comes in a hospital setting. So possibly if somebody went in there and just the smell of the hospital, comes into your face, they'll be like, no, I'd rather go somewhere else, or I'd rather have the conversation somewhere else. But in the Rose Clinic in Sneinton, they've created this space whereby all women who have undergone FGM can be able to come and have that conversation, get the support that they need. And I think it is the first one in the UK. I think there's other clinics that are there, definitely in Birmingham, in London, but all of them are usually based in a hospital setting because of the equipment that is needed. Number one, the practitioners that are needed, because all of them need to be either nurses or midwives. But having Nottingham being the first one that has an FGM clinic outside of the hospital setting and in a community setting, I think makes a great impact.
And so do you have any sense, I mean, in Nottingham, how many women are affected? How many women are at risk of this procedure? Do you have any sense of that?
Yeah, putting it a ballpark figure, every year based on the Nottingham statistics, removing the national statistics that are there, I think in Nottingham you get over 200 people coming or being referred to the midwife service, number one, or to the safeguarding services, number two, who've been affected by FGM. And these are not sort of people who have been double counted. It's new people who are coming into the service, who are being evidenced as new data coming into the system. And that says a lot, because there's a lot of refugees and asylum seekers who are coming into the country, and also immigrants who are coming into the country. So there's a lot of data that is coming in there. A lot of women that are coming in, most of them are fleeing their home countries, and more there is an increase in the number of people who are being referred into the system.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what more is needed to raise awareness or to provide support to survivors?
I can say there's three things, number one, that is needed. I think number one is having the openness to talk about it, because FGM is not just a female issue. It's a male and female issue, because we find that the male gender, number one, never want to talk about it. But their fathers, they want their daughters to go through it, you know. Number two is the funding, because preventative work in combating FGM is a long thing. And there needs to be the funding that is available to these services or to the community groups that are working towards it. Because then if there isn't any funding, then the services are not able to continue, or they stop midway, and you're not able to support the women that are there. And it becomes a bit hard, because if you've been supporting someone, or you've been supporting women for, say, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and then the funding finishes or the funding is cut, what happens after that? Is there a cycle of coming back whereby now the women would feel like, oh, there isn't any support that's happening, but there can be the support, but the funding is a critical aspect of having that wraparound support. And number three, I would say, is a peer support, because there's a lot of shame that comes with FGM alongside other forms of violence against women and girls. Having that support whereby it doesn't matter if someone has had FGM done before, but they can be in a community whereby people accept them and feel safe when they are there, engage them, so that they don't feel alienated, and to be able to say that, okay, I have a community, I have people who can be able to be there for me.
Yeah. So I just want to go back to the first point that you made there in terms of the role that men have got to play. What do you think in particular that the role is that men can play in being able to stop this practice continuing and provide sort of greater access to support and help for those that have been affected?
I think number one is to understand the issue around FGM, because most men would say, like talking about it in an African perspective, would say that's a female issue, And then if the grandmother, the grandfather, the grandmothers come and say, oh, your child needs to have FGM done, then the men will just say, okay, it's fine. But number one is to understand critically what actually is FGM, how FGM is done, and to be able to actually put their lives under that person and say, if it was you, how would you feel about it, you know?
And to understand the impact that it could have, not just there and then and immediately afterwards, but for the rest of their lives often.
Exactly. And to talk about it even with other men, because the men would put that stop to the grandmothers, because then they would say, you're not doing this to my daughter. And to also say, let's say in a family setting where the mother has passed away and it's only girls who are in the family, are you saying that just because the mother is away and is not there to protect them, that the father would say, okay, fine, you can have FGM done on my kids? No, that's not the case, you know? And in the case, say, for example, the case I was telling you about earlier for the lady who had FGM done when she was 18, that's because her mother passed away. And the father said, my grandmother has said that you need to do it. And the father didn't do anything to prevent it, because he kept on saying, that's a female issue. You know, if you got to do it, you got to do it. And I can see even now, there are some cases that we're going through with the safeguarding board here in Nottingham, whereby the mother has passed away and is now ladies who are in their teens or early 20s. And the father has been pressured so much about taking the kids, the girls, back to their home country. And is being pressured day by day, because then the father feels like, I'm going to be an outcast. You know, I don't want to be an outcast. I have to go back to my family. These are the people who have raised me. But then I have to take you guys. But then the lady is saying, you know, no. So the lady said reported it to the safeguarding team and at school. And now, at least now, there's an FGM protection order against that family. Their passports have been taken away. And now, at least, there's something that can be done, you know, to be able to say at least something has been done. Number one, they're not going to go out of the country. That's number one. But number two, having this father be able to understand, or even having those conversations, immersing himself in these conversations about FGM, because yes, you can be told by your grandmother, your great grandmother, bring the kids, but you have the opportunity to say no. Why aren't you saying no? What's that hold that they have to say, no, you're not doing this?
So men have got a really big role to play. Especially in changing some of those cultural norms. That sort of put that pressure on for this to happen.
Yes, definitely.
So, I mean, the 6th of February is the International Day for the Zero Tolerance to FGM. Could you just tell us a bit about that day? What's that around? What did you get up to this year for that?
So the 6th of February is the International Day of Zero Tolerance towards FGM, and it's a global movement whereby everyone is told to speak out, come out, tell stories, inform other people. Let's talk about it, because in talking about FGM, we can be able to eradicate it. So this year we had a conference in partnership with the Nottingham City Council. We had different community partners joining the conference. We had survivors of FGM being involved in the conference. Ourselves, we were involved in the conference. So we wanted to be able to make sure that, at least in Nottingham, people know more about FGM, educated more about FGM, and there are various referral processes that one can be able to do, or one can be able to have if someone feels that a girl or a lady is at risk of having FGM done. And later on in the year, because Nottingham was the first city to be declared zero tolerance to FGM, and that was in September of 2016. So this year we are celebrating 10 years of that, of Nottingham being the first city in the UK to have zero tolerance.
I mean, I think it has got a bigger platform now because it's part of the national, it's part of the government's national violence against women and girls strategy.
Yeah.
So at the very least, people might not think it exists or it might not be happening in their areas, but they can't deny the fact that it's there and the strategy is happening. It's got more visibility, hasn't it, sort of because of that strategy. So, I mean, if somebody's listening to this and they're concerned, how would they, spot the signs? Are there particular signs that people might be able to identify if somebody's at risk of, being sort of coerced into FGM or maybe being affected by it? Anything that people could look out for?
Yeah, definitely. Some of the most common signs that somebody can be able to see is if somebody's a bit unsettled, a bit anxious, is talking about a major trip that's going to happen abroad or traveling abroad, sort of instances where the family is saying there's going to be a big celebration coming soon, your family is telling you, you're coming to an age whereby, there's some things that are going to happen. The family is very excited. So those are kind of some of the signs you can be able to spot for someone who's at risk. They're probably very unsettled. They can't sit properly, talk properly, finding it even hard to converse about specific topics. And
so what can people do if they do notice something they're concerned about, maybe somebody they know? What can they do? Where can they go? Who can they talk to?
If it's an immediate risk, I would say probably the first thing is for you to call the police and to say that there is a risk that you have spotted. Number two, talking to the safeguarding professionals, because they would be able to sort of spot and identify and say for a fact that, yes, there might be a risk here, and see how you can be able to do it. And number three, talk to someone, a professional who is versed in the aspect of FGM, and seeing how they can be able to be talked to. And last and foremost, if you've already done all of this, then you just talk to the person and assure them that, everything is going to be okay. And she's going to get the most appropriate support that there is. Yeah. So,
Angela, thank you very much for coming in and talking about, what's an extremely uncomfortable and very difficult topic. But I'm glad that you're working in this area. I'm glad that the awareness is getting greater. There's opportunities for you to sort of share this information with other people. And as we said, if anyone's concerned, there are things that people can do. There are people that they can talk to. So thank you very much. And I'm sure we'll have you back. This is a very short time to cover what's a huge topic, in terms of the impact that it has on women, So thank you very much for coming in and talking to us.
Thank you so much, Shamsha, for having us.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.